a test. Sometimes I get out finessed by a test. That has haunted me in step one. It has haunted me in step two, because if I had those skills, I would have gotten higher scores. So what's helped me to do well is just absorbing. And that's kind of what I. Sometimes I get out finessed by a test.
Sorry,
that has haunted me.
Sorry, we're streaming live, so I kind of override. So now let's talk about step one, right? You got through like the rigorous of, like, all right, the MBA means that, right? Which a lot of people struggle with, sometimes. Now, how did you do in step one?
So I'll give you my score. So step one, I got 232, literally a point above average. And if you correlate my MCAT to my step one, it's not within, it's an outlier. So I outperformed in terms of statistics on that. Step one, I really focused on term 1 through term 5 to learn the material firsthand and learn it well. Things I would have done, I would have studied on my breaks, because I would come back and then every information from the past term was gone. So then I'm trying to relearn information in step one that I should have solidified already during the breaks and consolidate information. Step two, I got a 246. So I went up a good 14 points. And I think programs looked at the change and they said, okay, this guy really, learned a lot in the clinical years. He applied himself. He's really serious, and he has a stepwise progression that would show like good in his in-training exams.
All right. So there's a common theme out there between IMGs. They say, I want to take step 2 before I take step 1. What did you see after you take your step 1 and then you went into step 2 CCAT?
So I saw that it built. So there are questions on step 2 that come from step 1. And step 1 is what the basic sciences, right? It's from the cellular level. So everything that's like from minutia and then it expands, right? So from the way we are taught, because you have some non-US IMGs who have already finished medical school from overseas and they're trying to matriculate into the US. So some of them are more so clinically inclined. For them, getting a step 2 CK score with fresh clinical, mind and knowledge might be of benefit. And then they could take a couple of months to maybe a year to really grind on all that information that's so back, for step 1. Because I know in countries like in Nigeria and India, medical school is 6 years. And they usually start when they're 16 and they end when they're 22, right? So if you're trying to pull out information from when you're 16 and now you're 28, 29, that's gonna take a lot of time to consolidate. So you might as well take a test that you have information, in the forebrain first, and then take some time to really dig back information that you have for step 1. And now to non-US IMGs, step 1 is going back to pass fail. So all you gotta do is pass the exam. It's not like they're gonna look for 240, 250. So that works to your benefit. So I would definitely use that as an advantage this coming cycles.
So a lot of people, people would say, oh, you didn't get a 250, you match into anesthesia. How did you do it?
Yeah, so, I was talking to my dean. It's not my dean, but one of the clinical advising deans, right? And by name of Dr. Magnifico. If you end up going to SGU or you're afraid of SGU, you'll know him, and talk to Dr. Madden. And these guys are saying, hey, look, well, it's great that you want to go into anesthesia. You have the clinical experience of being an ICU nurse before. You've worked with vents and drips. However, you might want to apply into a backup. Now, I knew that they were saying this because I've spent $500,000. I have invested in their school. And in the event I don't match, it looks bad on myself and them. And you spend all this money and you're in debt and you have no job after spending $500,000. So really they were saying, hey, look, the typical applicant is usually someone that has, 250 step 1, 260 step 2. They have all this research and, very cookie cutter, candidate. But not being that candid, I had to use what I have. So what I have, it's relative to each person. So I would advise everybody that is applying, if you don't have the classic 250, you don't have the classic 260, you have to look at yourself and say, okay, what do I have that other people don't have that can be used to my benefit to get into a program, whether that be anesthesia, dermatology, radiology, the roads, right? So for me, I had the clinical experience as a nurse, right? Before that, I already went through a clinical training program, which is nursing. So I have kind of basic clinical knowledge already before even going to medical school, right? I have relational aspects because I've worked with people on a medical team. And I've seen how doctors work. I've seen how pharmacy works. I've seen how nursing works. Then I was a president of the Student Government Association. And then I actually did research for a year on the island with anatomy lab and with testicular cancer. So that may not be the same for everybody, but I had to use what I have, and I really focused on getting good grades. So I ended up graduating magna cum laude. So I knew, okay, not good STEP scores, but at least he is, second honors. So that will help, So I kind of you got to use what you have and go with it.
So did you actually apply for any backups?
I applied for no backups. I did a Hail Mary. I was like, you know what? If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I'm going to do anesthesia. And in the event I don't get anesthesia, there's a plan B. And the plan B is I can always soap into a transitional. If that doesn't work, there's medicine and surgery spots that never get filled. I can always do a year of that. And I can always come back and apply for an advanced spot in anesthesia. And many people do it, I have a friend who didn't match, and he had a 249, step one. He had a 262, step two, but he wasn't broad with his applications. He was very limited because he had all these nice scores. He thought he had to get in. But me, I was more broad because I knew, hey, look, buddy, you're an IMG. The world is nothing. You got to fight for everything that you have. So I applied broadly, and I was successful. So, it's relative. He has the nice scores, no match. I have the subpar scores, I match, but different strategies.
So I like the fact that you're breaking this down for our audiences, because sometimes people are like, well, I got low scores in my life, it's over, right? But it looked like you did have plan B and C. Now let's talk about if that anesthesia didn't work out, right? But you had that additional experience, because sometimes people underestimate the experiences they have. They don't think it counts because we're all like gung-ho on numbers. Like we're just like, you look online on, I'm sure you go on, studentdoctor.net and Reddit threads and Quora, and it seems like everybody got 240, 250. That's the only way you can get it, right? Like, and people having anxiety at home. They're having panic attacks, right? And people are like, is my 225 enough to get into this? It's like, and they're playing this, and I understand people want answers because it's a competition. And you're saying, looking at, even though you have subpar scores, right? You need to think outside of the box, whereby know yourself.
Yes. I was reminded by one of the guests that my scores aren't subpar. Sorry. So I'm yes, the scores weren't subpar, but when you have all these gunners around you, you kind of subpar.
Well, they're not. I mean, I would So let's put into perspective, right? He got really good scores, right? They're really good scores. But right now the average is 231 on step one. So, as an IMG, you always want to get above the average. So you got above the average. Right now, the average in step 2 CK is scary, 240. I don't know if people know that. Like, so even though you may score above 240, maybe you score a few points above 240, you just a little bit, you're right still in that, okay, a little bit above average scores, right? So, but even though if you get below that, right, below the average, I always tell IMGs, get to 20 and up, give yourself a chance. And then, find research opportunities, right? And do all these things else, because you are more than a number.
Exactly.
Right? You're more than, when you got, so let's talk about that soap, because people are like, what the heck is soap? What's soap?
So SOAP is for the supplemental offer and acceptance program, I believe. So what the SOAP is, in the event you apply for the ERAS cycle in your respective year, and the person doesn't match, okay? So what happens is a bunch of unfilled programs in every specialty get released to those who didn't match. If you matched, you won't get this list of programs. And then you have a number of hours to days to put in applications for each program that's not filled. So once you put these in, you got to pay for these as well. It's not free. It doesn't, your ERAS payment from prior application doesn't cover this, right? So you pay for this, each one, and then you have to now stand by your phone, because you're going to either get a phone call or an email from the program director or associate program director. They will now either schedule for an interview or they'll interview you on the spot, from a phone call. And then in the next day or two, you'll be signing a contract. So the SOAP is for anybody who hasn't matched. It's supplemental, and it gives you an opportunity to now matriculate into a program. Now, it could be a prelim surgery, prelim medicine, it can be transitional, it can be OB, it can be peds, it can be anything. There's one time they had neurosurgery there because a spot wasn't filled. So it's pretty much who comes first, grab who they see, and they pick them. So
it's a crazy time after the match, right? And we'll talk about your interview, but the reason is because sometimes we don't prepare ourselves for the worst and hope for the best, right? And when people are caught off guard, like if your friend that got a 260 then match, right? It's like, I'm 1000% sure I'm getting a spot, right? And, I remember when I was applying for residency, like I applied for probably 53 programs back then or plus, and I'm a US grad and I got 17 interviews, right? And I'm like, I'm going to match, but people don't prepare for not matching, right? They don't anticipate if I don't match, and I want you to match, but if you don't, isn't it important that people kind of preview what the SOAP is in advance, just in case?
Yes. So I'll be honest with you. I previewed what the SOAP was. So I had friends in earlier classes that had the SOAP. So I kind of saw their journey, their frustrations, and how they had to sit by their phone and sleep by their phone because, I was in California, so my friends were in California, and, the East Coast is 3 hours ahead. So they're getting calls like at 3 a.m. So they had to stay by their phone. They were literally doing the vigils by their phone. So I said, okay, Paul, if you don't match, this will be your life for a week. So you've seen it, get ready for it in the event it happens. So fast forward a year later, the day before or a week before the match, I go on YouTube. YouTube is your friend. The internet is your friend, guys. So I go there and I look on, okay, what is the SOAP? What do you do in the SOAP? And I looked and I kind of formed a strategy. I didn't change my personal statement. I kept the personal statement because I knew I was going to go into a prelim program. So a prelim program, they know that you're going to be there for a year.
What's a prelim? Explain to them what preliminary, because sometimes people are like, what's prelim?
Okay. So a prelim program essentially is a 1-year program that's usually a surgery, a medicine program, or it can be a transitional program. So let's start off with medicine. It's a 1-year program in medicine whereby you are a medicine intern and you pretty much function at the capacity of a medicine intern. You're responsible for all medicine aspects at the intern level with the knowledge that you're not there for 4 years, you're there for 1 year, all right? And you're still gonna have to apply for ERAS again to matriculate into a residency program that will now, lead to a board certification. And that's the same for surgery. So just because you get into a 1-year prelim surgery program doesn't mean that you're gonna be there for 5 years. So the minute you get into a prelim program, you gotta start getting your stuff ready for the match, all right? Don't let it creep up to you and I'm gonna be here and they're gonna take me. No, there's no insurance in the prelim, yes. No, don't be that person. I had a friend who was in a prelim surgery program at the hospital that I was at, and it was during COVID. She was literally coming on her day off, okay, clocking in 100+ hours, thinking that she was gonna get the, R2, so the resident 2 spot after the prelim program. She did not get it, okay? MS Horrors got the spot before her, so there's no insurance contingency plan when you sign the contract, they didn't stipulate that they're going to matriculate you. So you got to plan, okay? You get into a prelim, start planning for the next year. Same with transitional. Transition, it's a program whereby you do a bunch of electives. You can do anesthesia, surgery. You're just pretty much an MS4, glorified MS4 that's working at an intern level in all different specialties. And that one, you're pretty much, matched already in an advanced radiology, ophthalmology, dermatology, that kind of thing.
That's really good for people to know. So because people don't, especially IMGs, right? So I know IMGs when you want to apply to the traditional, like I'm applying path where I have IM as my backup, or I'm applying IM and I'm putting neuro as my backup, right? But there's that prelim spot too that they don't know about, that you're going to be paid $50,000 for that whole year where you're getting clinical experience as a prelim resident, like you're not a resident, preliminary resident, you're going to be a resident, right? But you're only there for 1 year. So it allows you to make money, right? Because IMGs don't have a lot of money. It's not like you have a money tree behind your house. If you do, just give me a call. I'll bring my bags and we're going to come plot some additional money from you. But, so I think people don't think about backups of backups, right? Within the realm of your application cycle, like, I'm only applying anesthesia and that's it, right? But the truth of the matter is, I think IMG should have prelim as a backup so that at least you're not wasting a whole year at home, not doing anything.
Absolutely.
Right?
And,
go ahead.
A lot of non-US IMGs, they're always looking for the US clinical experience. Now, if you haven't gotten the US clinical experience, the prelim, right, that prelim year will help you, right? And then it will now lead to, okay, if you apply again in the following cycle, and programs where you intend to apply for are looking for that US clinical experience, that already helps to check off that point. Boom. I've gotten my US clinical experience. I've been able to meet with some attendings. I got LORs, and you start building a resume. I have someone in my program, he did 2 prelim years, right? He did 2 surgery prelim years, okay? And then he had to go back home for a year because, he was like, okay, what am I doing? But then those 2 years that were just prelims, it may look like a long journey. Like I don't know if you were Christians here, when the children of Israel were in the wilderness for 40 years before they got to Canaan, okay, that's what it might look like, right? You keep going to prelim year after prelim year, but now you're building a resume. You're building LORs, you're building contacts, and now he was a surgery resident for 2 years. Both years were prelim. Now he was able to matriculate into our program. He, matriculated as an intern again, but at least he has a guarantee that he's going to finish out residency for 4 years and graduate as an anesthesiologist. So it may look daunting, but it's beneficial.
So that prelim never counts towards your resident, the full, never.
For some programs, they might give you advanced standing. There are some programs that'll give you. So my program reserves 1 spot for a CA1 after you've done a prelim program, and then they,
You don't start as a PGY2.
No, you will. So they have 1, but this guy didn't get it.
You didn't get it?
He didn't get it. He had to start as intern. So he's literally a PGY3 functioning. Yes. So he's just like me, like everybody that just graduated medical school. It's all the same.
He knows a lot more than you guys.
He does, but we keep him humble.
This is really good because a lot of people don't even, because here's what happens, right? People don't apply for that. This is a little dirty secret in the IMG roadmap journey that IMGs apply every year. They don't apply for that prelim spot. All the IMGs don't tell them that there's a prelim spot they applied for. They match. They just say, I matched, right? But then you're at home. If you don't match, and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Do I do research? Do I go find a doctor to shadow, right? While these guys are getting paid $50,000 a year.
Yes.
Work, make money, work as a resident, right? You literally rotate. Like if you do internal medicine, you're doing internal medicine, pulmonary, cardio, GI, right? You're working inside the hospital for a whole year, right? And you get to get letters of recommendation
Yes.
from the program itself, from the attendees that work with you. I mean, the benefits, I think, outweigh the risk. What do you think?
100%. I mean, you're going to be in a prelim program. Now, it is noted that some prelim programs, right, you're going to be overworked. It's not the most ideal, but at least you are in America now. You're not back home anymore. You are in the USA. Well, all right, you're on American soil. That's one. Two, like that's what addition I said, you're getting paid. You're getting paid $50,000 at least, right? Third, every program that you go into, and I've got a lot of questions. People DM me on Instagram, US clinical experience. This is it right here. You get the best US clinical experience. And what I found from non-US IMGs, usually Nigerian or Indian or other countries, you guys are pretty good with the physical exam and the clinical aspect. Versus us, we're just good at reading numbers and you diagnose via numbers and scans, and you guys usually take time with patients and you see the whole big general picture. So when an attending sees that and like, oh wow, this guy or this lady is very thorough, it works to your benefit and you start racking up letters of rec, you start racking up contacts, and then boom. I mean, even if you're here for 2 years doing prelim programs, you're getting paid each year, right? And then by the time you're able to match into a residency, I mean, it'll pay dividends.
So here's another question I have for you. If I do a prelim year, I have to go back into ERAS again to apply the next year. Okay, hypothetically, right? Because you told me that the guy that did 2 prelim years. Can you continue your prelim year in the program you are automatically, or you have to go way back to the front of the line, reapply again for that ERAS application, reapply for a backup prelim, and hopefully your program takes you back? I'm just trying to put everything on the table.
So sometimes you can go non-ERAS match, there's this out of match. If that program has out of match, out of the ERAS match. My friend, he had to go from another program to another program. He had to go back into the match and then go to a different program in the same state because he didn't have this out of match contingency. Some programs, like I know the surgery program in NJMS, right? I have a friend who had a SOAP and got into that program. And they told him that if you do good in all this, that we will matriculate you. But you don't guarantee, we're all human beings, okay? You have to make an insurance plan for yourself. Not one person in this world can hold your destiny. So even if a program director tells you, hey, yeah, we're gonna matriculate you next year, I would still apply to other programs. And in the event you matriculate into that program that you're in, great, But if you don't, at least you had a plan B. You always have to have a plan B. Sorry.
Wow. This is amazing. I love this. So let's back up into your experience, because I like that you thought about plan B and plan C, because a lot of IMGs just don't know. And I tell people, lack of knowledge is what's going to kill you in this process. And the right information at the right timing. Everything has deadlines. And the reason why I created Smash Your SML is I know when you are inside your home by yourself in America, you feel lonely, right? Especially non-US IMGs. You went to a Caribbean school, you're surrounded by people that are constantly feeding you guys information, right? You're constantly getting in touch with a professor. You're constantly talking to somebody. Most of my students that are not in Caribbean schools or out of medical school for a while, they're dependent on the internet. And geez, the internet is the worst. It's literally the place that can make you overdose of medications just because you are confused. And there's just all these people, you just went through the process and you have people, medical students who never match, they're not attendings, and they will be telling you information as if they've been there.
Yeah, I see it all the time. You have people who have never been through the process that want to now coach you about the process. And I'm like, no, guys, look, you need valid resources on people who have actually gone through it. They have succeeded and failed. That's that's the key for information.
So for you, you've got an ICU background. When you got 7 interviews, even with as much as your application was real good, out of 136 programs, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about interview process. How do you prepare?
So you know what? I'm the kind of person, I when it comes to in-person stuff, you know, when you're growing up and you're going on dates and your friends like, oh yeah, you should drop this line, do this. You want to go in there naturally. You don't go into things all cookie cutter. So I kind of used like I just went in there confident, smooth, and you are getting interviewed. You are not. They want to hear what you have to say. You know what I mean. And you have to say what they like. You have to play that violin. Okay. So being in the nursing world for a long time and dealing with people, I kind of know that sometimes people want to hear what they want to hear. So you have to research the program. Where you're going to get interviewed by, you have to know what are they good at, the community that they serve, what is their mission statement, and all throughout your interview, you have to kind of tailor it to that. And that's what I did for all my 7 programs.
So when you got that interview, you went online, looked at their website, checked out. So let's break that down a little bit for people.
Right. So my first interview, I'll tell you guys, was to Cook County. University of Buffalo. Okay. So I researched on their website. I was like, okay, look, they get patients from Canada because they're right next to the border, and their climate, right? I know that they don't do much with traumas. They do a lot of transplants and the kind of services that they do, and they're very academic. It's a university center. Okay. So I looked them up, and this was the first year that it was Zoom. So they can't get the personal touch. You're not able to shake someone's hand. You're not able to use personal charisma. You're not able to use personal attributes. It's all within a screen. Like, you guys see me from a screen, but you guys don't really know who, when you're able to see someone first, in live, you know who they are. So I had to really communicate who I was and really relay the answers they were wanting by, talking through a Zoom screen. So some of my friends, we were actually just talking to each other through Zoom, right? Just to focus and just to prep. So a lot of my friends, we actually prepped through Zoom before the interview, like maybe like a week before interviews went out. And that's kind of what I used. Yeah.
So when people research this hospitals now, I'm an attendant, and you're a resident, because sometimes they're like, what do you mean you research and how do you know this information? So just to kind of make it simple for you guys. So every hospital, right, is serving within probably 50, 60 mile radius of the community of that environment. Like, basically what it means is when you get sick, call 911 or you drive yourself, that's the hospital you go to. Now, within that area, the question is it an urban area, right? Because if it's in the city, it's gangbusters, maybe it's in the hood. In the hood, it's all like shooting, stabbing. So, and then you want to find out, are they a designated trauma center, which means do they have level 1 trauma, level 2 trauma, level 3, or level 4 trauma, right? So, and if you guys don't know what that means, a level 1 trauma center has a neurosurgeon. All right, that's the key criteria. Like, which means if you get into a car accident and your brain gets smashed, you got a subarachnoid hemorrhage everywhere from your head, like you got like half of your brain hanging out. And I intubate you in the ER in the trauma bay. I call neurosurgery, and they're taking you upstairs in the operating room. They're doing a Camino. They're putting a ball in your head. They're sucking blood out of your brain to stabilize you, take off the pressure, intracranial pressure that people get in the ICU before they basically herniate and die. Okay. Yes. That's what that means, guys, right? So we're giving it to you guys. So when they say we're a level 1 trauma center, and they're academic, they're pretty much as good as it gets. That they're telling you the experience you are going to get from coming to this program is going to be bar none, because you're going to see some bad stuff, like crazy stuff. Limbs injury, arm injury, gunshot penetration trauma. They're trying to. So if you Google and look up their website and you don't Google their address and kind of like, okay, and they're saying, oh, we're a trauma center, then you can relate to them like, oh, maybe you have some trauma background. You may want to tell them about the trauma background that you have. And so you connect instantaneously. Like, what do you think? I don't want to say too much, but I'll let you.
You're very correct. So I went to school, Texas Christian University, right, in Fort Worth. I practiced as a nurse in Fort Worth. Now, the kind of terrain, Fort Worth is in the South. Little Rock is in the South. So the kind of traumas that come in are going to be, you're going to get your classic gunshots and stabbings. We're going to get tractors, people getting ran over by tractors. I had patients in the ICU that I had to deal with that, farming accidents, falling off a tractor, TBIs from falling. Some guy got his trachea messed up, little trachea dissection from a tractor. I come here, one of my first traumas when I was in surgery rotation was a kid. He was 7 years old and he got pinned under a tractor. So they kind of saw, okay, this guy he went to school in the South. He practiced in the South. So he'll be kind of used to, the kinds of things that come in. So researching the area, and okay, Little Rock, I knew it's an urban / country kind of town. So I was familiar with that aspect, right? And then I kind of look to a global, more bigger picture. What kinds of patients are they serving? Are they African American? Are they Caucasian? In terms of disease prevalence, you're going to have more sickle cell disease, right? How am I going to put someone under anesthesia that's sickle cell? Okay, you got to formulate a plan. So they want to know that you kind of have those things in your foresight.
And this is absolutely amazing information you guys are getting. I mean, like for free, because knowing, because that way you are talking to them, you're talking at their level, right? You've done your homework, and then you take your own experiences, even if you don't, find your own stories to find it to fit into one of those things they do, because they have so many things, right? Not just the academics, the population that they are serving. Like, oh, when I went to medical school, we were serving people in this population similar to yours. Exactly. That might be your line to break in, because one of the key things during the interview process is breaking the glass. I always talk about that, breaking that glass, right? You and I having a conversation, and you're shaking on the other hand, like your hands are sweating during the interview, because you're like, I hope I can connect, but there's something that breaks your glass. The glass breaking is when you connect directly with what they do.
Yes.
And you can find something in common, some kind of experience that fits into what they do in their philosophy. Then they're like, oh, we're interested in you. Tell us more about your experience. What do you say, Paul? Hmm? What do you think about that?
Oh, 100%. I was concurring with you, because when you're dealing with a patient, right, they're already coming in because something about their health is stressing them, or they've gotten recently to a trauma, or something happens. When you're the first person of contact, they don't want the added stress of trying to communicate what they have to communicate with you. So that's why these programs try to find people. When they say we're trying to find a fit, the fit is finding a person who can be able to talk with the demographic that they serve at a relational standpoint, because they don't want, there's an added layer. You don't want to add layers of barriers to communication. You want to be able, a patient comes in, they want to be able to pour everything out to you. How are they able to do that? When we remove some of those barriers, and now they're able to freely speak to you their mind, So that's what they really look for. They want someone who is able to relate to people, relating to patients, without layers of glass. They want someone who's just a direct point of contact.
Now, how did you say you were kind of open and free? You did practice before you did your interviews, right? Give us some of the example of the question they asked you.
So I'll go with the most bizarre to the most general. So it was one interview. They asked me, what is the atmospheric pressure? No, they asked me what is the Hertz unit we use in the US, and what is the one we use in Europe? It was very weird. I think they're just trying to see, with that kind of question, they're trying to see, okay, how quick am I to answer? And two, am I willing to say no, but I, kind of formulate, they're not looking for the right answer there, but they're just trying to see how you react to a bizarre answer, because patients and colleagues are going to ask you bizarre questions. So they want to know how you react to bizarre answers. That was one. The second one, I was asked, what is the most stressful time you've had in your career? Because, being a nurse. Two, they asked, how do I, work under pressure? Three, they asked, how do you like, a busy workflow? Because, in residency, not only do you have to study for your in-training exams, now I'm studying for my preliminary in-training exam, studying for step 3, and then I got to work crazy hours in the hospital. So they want to know, how well do you do with stress? And it's okay to say, at times I do get bombarded with stress. However, you know how to seek other outlets in order to modulate your stress, If you are a great worker with stress, that's great too. They like to hear that, but they also want to see, okay, what do you do in your free time? They want to know that you're a human being. They want to know what kind of other interests you have. They're going to ask you about your interests. They're going to ask you about what is important to you in this life, because they want to see, okay, because there's these kind of criteria questions. Do you think that being a perfectionist is important, or do you think that being relational is important? Just kind of behavior questions. So they kind of they use it to get a general sense of you.
What did you answer about a perfectionist versus relationship?
Well, I said I try to do the best that I can do with what I'm given, and I try to, seek out information that I don't know. Because if you don't know it, your job as a learner is to seek out, the information. So, and I was honest with that. It's good to be a perfectionist, but sometimes if you're a perfectionist, you end up making mistakes. And if you're a perfectionist, you might compromise what really needs to be done just for the sake of looking perfect. You can look perfect and suck, or you can look like you suck and you're doing a really good job because you're putting all your effort in. Just saying. I know that's not the most PC word, but
So I like the fact that I think a lot of us, when we go through the interview process, we want to appear this perfect, flawless human beings. Yeah. That, I'm unbreakable. I'm like, nah, you have not gone through residency yet. Right?
Oh man.
And I like the fact that when you talked about, when they ask you, like, how do you handle stress? Like, you're not saying, well, stress doesn't bother me. Like, I can take anything, right? Like, because they will remember your words. Like, if you think, they take notes. Because if they take you, and then we're putting you on the 90-hour work week, and all of a sudden you become non-functional. They're like, we took the wrong resident.
Yeah, you're right. I like how you said 90 hours, because they tell you it's 80 hours.
Yeah. On the books. That's the one that goes on the books. That's the one you write down.
Yeah. Oh man.
That gets submitted to the ACG.
Yep.
So I love this because we are telling you what you will experience when you finally get through the steps. Yeah. Right. And I love the fact that you talk about just being honest. What would you say is so important when it comes to honesty during this process?
They can send someone who is not being honest for the sake of just trying to match. I would say, it's good to be honest, but you should also tailor your honesty too. When asking you a question, you answer the question as given. You don't now dig yourself into a deeper hole, kind of, when you see people debating on the debate stage, and sometimes they give too much information, and then that question leads into another answer that exposes all their dirty past. Okay. You got to answer the question as given. It's good to expand, but don't expand upon things that will now query different questions that you weren't able to answer. Because that can happen.
What about your social media profile? Do you think this guy should to see what you're doing?
Yes, 100%. During the ERAS cycle, I had to change my Facebook to a different name because some programs say that they don't, but you never know. So you got to be careful of what you post. Nothing offensive, nothing jarring, because they don't want someone who's going to come into the program and make the working conditions. Because even though you won't be like that with your patients, if you're like that with your colleagues, and then if you're like that with your colleagues, then the working relational aspect won't be good. So they think about it on that end, But I'm for people speaking their mind. I'm totally against the whole cancel culture, but it does exist. So
well, I agree with you. You can speak your mind, but the thing is, you don't have the leverage right now.
You don't.
I mean, let's talk the facts. The facts are the fact. You don't have any leverage. They have the ultimate power to determine your future and your literally how far you go in life. Until you get to my position where I got to call the shots, right? You just don't. So whatever can incriminate you, whatever post, even if that's your strong belief, sir, keep it to yourself. until you get to this position of power where you're pretty much untouchable. You're like, okay, I got my board certification. I'm an attendant. Excuse me. Do you have a question? Don't question me. But, if you have things you have on your profiles that you've posted that, might be your, like racism, like sexism, whatever it is that you think you believe in, I don't think it's a good idea for them to go, because that might be the thing they'll say like, I don't know if I want to work with this person.
Or even something as simple as saying, oh, okay, I wouldn't say this, but just quote unquote, something, our immune systems are strong. Why the need for it? Like if you just put immune system strong and that like God is more powerful than a vaccine, okay, even though you may believe that, you putting that on there, oh, he's detrimental to patient safety. Boom. Detrimental to patient safety. That might be your personal belief and whatnot, but the minute you put that out there and someone sees that, man, cancel culture.
Yeah. So, man, we are running out of time. We've got a couple of questions. So we've got someone asking how easy it is to get into a prelim position.
How easy? Okay. So it depends. Usually if you apply, you can apply outright to a prelim program. And usually for the most part, if you apply to a bunch of them, you'll get a spot. And in the SOAP too, I mean, if you apply to most of the spots of prelim programs in the SOAP, more than likely, because a lot of them do go unfilled even after the SOAP. And if they don't fill these programs, the program ends up losing money because Medicare is paying for that spot. So they're paying the hospital and paying you. So they want to fill those spots. So it's pretty doable.
Can you imagine a prelim and advanced anesthesia at the same time?
Yes, you can. Actually, that is the old method, and some programs still use that method. So what you'll do if you're going that route, there are programs that only give advanced. So anesthesia formally begins in years 2 through 4. And then your first year is a prelim program or transitional. So you would apply for a prelim and your advanced anesthesia at the same time. And then you'll be matching into those at the same time. So you'd get 2 matches. You'd get a prelim match and you'd get an advanced match. So yeah, it can be done.
Okay. Now here's another question. What were your practice? Well, you already talked about your scores at 232 and 246. Did you take MBMEs before you took the exam? What did you use to practice?
So for step 1, I used UWorld. I used a first aid book. So I'll give you my sequela. So term 5, which is the end of my second year, I went through first aid. I went through UWorld once, and I went through USMLE RX, the questions. After the island, it was kind of too late, but I used Anki for micro just to get repetition. I used Anki for micro and farm. I used UWorld, and then on the island, I took the old MBMEs. And we had the CBSE, which is the Comprehensive Basic Science exam, and then we had the BSCE. So those exams prepared me. And I took an MBME in my 6-week schedule. I took 1 a week.
Yeah. Were you seeing a progression like during the time we were studying?
So I saw a progression and a dip and a progression. So on my year-old self-assessment, I actually was supposed to get a 243. So I kind of went down and went up. So my step 1, practice schedule, I say was not ideal, but my step 2 was very much ideal. So step 2, what I did, I was studying for step 2 throughout the whole year. I now went to New York where my good friend was. He was the chair of the Honor Society of our school. Went to New York, got an Airbnb for 4 weeks. And throughout those 4 weeks, we cranked UWorld. The first 2 weeks, we did 4 blocks a day. The last 2 weeks, we hit 8 blocks a day with our weekends being NBMEs. I mean, that was just for test taking stamina. I mean, when you're doing 8 blocks a day and you go into the test and you have I think it was seven blocks, doing 8 blocks a day was like a piece of cake because you were already used to, grinding all day.
So how many hours a day were you guys studying?
Oh, he would come back from clinical at like 12 and we'd go up to 2 a.m. And we'd take small breaks here and there, but we'd go from 12 to 2. I mean, it was a straight grind. Because I mean, he, wanted to get a high score. He ended up getting a 264. You have another guy who was with us who was trying to go on a surgery. And then you have me who was trying to get into anesthesia. And I'm like, I have no anesthesia rotation. So I needed something to buffer me not having an LOR. So I knew that what was going to save me was, okay, step 2 score needs to outperform.
Wow. So, because sometimes I try to explain that, and every IMG is different. So when it comes to smashes and people are working, you guys are students, so you have all the time. Now, I heard you said I use first aid in UWorld, but did you think because you're freshly coming off that first MD 1 to 5, still have that medical information, made looking at first aid a little easier for you?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because
it was way easier. If you're an IMG, and you haven't seen cell phase, you haven't seen all of these genetic diseases in years, it's gonna take a while to prep it. Yeah, it was definitely easier. And now that step 1 is going pass fail, if that was the same system, if that system was available back then, I would have literally gone off the island, go to a parametric center the next 2 weeks and taken the test. Because already coming off the island, I was targeted to make a 225. And passing is what, 197 or 196?
194, yeah.
194. So I already had the score ready. So now that it's a pass-fail exam, the dynamics are going to be very different.
We'll talk about that, but I want to answer a couple of questions here. Somebody said, were the NBME questions of the same standard with the actual USMLE questions when you took the USMLE?
So there were a few that were the same as the NBME, but honest to say, it was more the standard of the free 120 questions that you get, and it was more the standard of UWorld, a little notch above UWorld, but it was comparable to UWorld. I would say UWorld does a very good job as a question bank.
Now, did you have any test anxiety?
For step 1, yes. The stamina. My stamina was horrible. And then I was second guessing myself. There were a lot of questions, when you see a question and you know the answer, your first gut feeling is usually the right answer. I was questioning myself, overthinking. So I was just, I was being a doubting Thomas.
What will you tell people? Because people, you guys grinded it out for 6 weeks. It's crazy, right? And you still got on the test, and then you literally still second guessing yourself. Like, yeah. What do you think? What was that thing that now it's the real deal, right? Once you click open, once you click start, right? Your heart rate goes up to like maybe at 110, 115-ish. And
you're right. Yes.
Why are you doubting yourself?
If you've had these kind of habits, we've been in school for so many years. If you've had these kind of habits from undergrad, it's hard to break, and I would say as you're going through medical school, you start to break those habits of doubting yourself with, is this the right answer? Is this the wrong answer? So that when you're taking that USMLE step 1 or step 2, those kind of bad habits don't come and creep onto you and start doubting yourself, And also too, if you have that kind of problem, prepare well for the exams. That really helps. We have a lot of questions. We have some in the comment section and we have some in the Q&A section.
I'm trying to get through all of them. Let's see the Q&A. Somebody's anonymous says the prelim is for only 1 year. If after that 1 year you don't match, do you directly apply to the prelim again? I think we answered that. So he's asking, like, after that 1 year prelim, could you directly apply to the prelim program again? Or will you go through the apply all prelim and hope to match? I think you answered that already. Like, you have to go through.
Let me reemphasize to that person, because they might be going to a prelim. Okay, buddy. If you get a prelim position, the minute you get to that hospital, you need to start doing ERS for the next cycle. Because there is no guarantee that that hospital that you're in will matriculate you into their medicine or surgery program, or whatever program it may be. Okay, just don't get all happy. things don't usually work out the way it's supposed to work out in life, or that they make you.
So another person, how did you structure MBMEs? I think you said you took it every week.
Yes.
And what predictive tool did you use to determine how prepared you were before you took the test?
So coming off the island, my predictive tool was a CBSE, because it gave me a score of 225. So then I should have probably used you, but I went with med school gurus, and they gave me a schedule of how I should, approach the, the test. They kind of gave me a structure. They told me I should do MBME 18 at some point. That was one of the hardest ones. And then UWorld Assessment 2 at some point. And I kind of went along with their schedule. So I paid for a schedule, if that's what you're asking, in the whole pathoma, how many chapters this day, how many, step 1 pages this day. So I use a schedule. Yeah.
So that's important for a lot of people to, how important is it for people to get help during this process?
Oh yeah. No man is an island. And even some of the people that you're going to school with, like in your same term or same year, sometimes don't have the best information because they're going through the same thing with you, right? So they're going through the same process. So it's always good to seek out information, even if you have to pay for it. It's very important because I might as well pay to get a 235 than not pay, wing it, and get a 215. And then I've cost myself 20 points, and that 20 points that I've now costed myself makes it harder for me to match. Spending an X amount of money, right, will now guarantee that I'm able to secure a position where I'm getting paid 50,000. So I gotta look at the opportunity cost, the benefit, the return on investment. So I put in $1,000 to get in return on investment 59,000. So I've made a net profit of 49,000. If you can look at it from that standpoint, use the business mind, then
I think that's the best advice you can give people. Like you spent $500,000, right, just to go to medical school. Like I had $300,000 by the time I was done, and I think for IMGs when they're going through this, especially non-US IMGs, right, even Caribbean students, right, Caribbean students they're owing $200,000 already, right, and they failed the USMLE. Like I try to figure it out by myself, and I said, dude, you're already $200,000 in the hole. Whatever amount of money you are actually spending to get the help you need to get over the hump is a drop in the bucket, right? To get you, because every year that goes by is a year that you can never get back, both in income for the rest of your life that you can potentially earn, and also slowing down the process to get to the final destination. So I'm glad you brought that up, because when people come to my course and I say, listen, what you invest in is it's literally a dip in the bucket. But the value of what you're gonna get is super. It's gonna accelerate your process. Talking to people like you, talking to people like me who've done this. We've gone through the process to accelerate your process to get to the final destination. So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, Bass is asking, what practice do you indulge in to ensure that you don't start forgetting most of the stuff you've learned?
Oh, you mean currently now as a resident, or when I was in medical school?
That's a good question. Which one is it? Is it now, or let's say now? Let's start with now.
So now, I'm gonna confess. After step 2 CK, I didn't read a single thing. I did not study. I allowed my brain to open and decompress. Well, he's asking while preparing for USMLE, what did I read? It depends. Step 1 or step 2. So step 1, I read the first aid book by Cowley. The yellow book. That was the Bible. And I supplemented that with questions from USMLE RX and UWorld. Now, when you're going through UWorld, it's most important that you're reading the wrongs and the reason why you got it wrong. And even if you get a question right, you read the reason why you got it right. Now, I kind of tailored my reading to the blurbs that were under. Dr. Addition might have a different formula because, he's a guru at this, but that's what I used. That was for step 1. Step 2, the same way. I actually used the step 1 book for step 2 as well, because they brought in some, base genetic questions, the basic stuff. So I had to use it. And I used UWorld. I used AMBOSS. I actually used AMBOSS during my clinical sciences year. My 3rd year for the shelves, I used AMBOSS so that I didn't see the questions again in preparing for step 2. Yeah, so that's a little pearl there. AMBOSS is very good.
So he's giving guys a lot of nuggets here, right? Actually, we have a framework called the EASE method here at Smash USMLE. And, we go over how they answer questions in a standardized format, and then looking at the right and wrong options before they jump to the education objective, and then summarizing it and put it into their book, or so that as they're going along, they can kind of see their progress. And it's literally tried and true. We've used it for 10 years. And once people get it, they're like, oh my gosh, geez, it's so easy to answer these questions once you have the baseline knowledge. You being an IMG and coming back to the US, did you ever feel like when you were doing your rotations, there was a little, I don't want to use the word discriminatory, but you do ever feel like, wow, they're from the Caribbean island, or he's an IMG, or it didn't matter?
I'm glad you bring that up. So the hospital that I was at, it was Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. That's in Colton, California, in the San Bernardino area. So in that hospital, a lot of the residents were from my school. Since we rotated there, our school had a contract with them for like 10, 15 years. A lot of the residents that were there were graduates of SGU, they were Ross graduates, a lot of them were DO graduates. So they kind of understood our struggle, and they were like older brothers, older sisters there, grooming us and, for clinical. So they were very good there. I've heard of other places, whereby Caribbean or non-US IMG students go there, and there might be some discrimination as to, oh, well, they do it like that over there. Or I was in OBGYN rotation, and one of the attendings asked me, what do you guys learn down there? It was kind of condescending in a way, because it was related to, hypertension and pregnancy. And I didn't really know it was the first week too. So I haven't gone in depth with studying for OBGYN that in depth. And, some attendings expect more, some attendings are, expect a baseline. And she threw that at me, and hey, what can I do, right? My goal is just to get through that rotation. Obviously, I wasn't applying OB-GYN. Get through that rotation, do as best as I could, and don't let it eat you up. There's discrimination no matter who you are in life. You can be Black, you can be white, you can be any kind of race. You can have all these, pre-qualifications. You can be even the most perfect cookie cutter US medical student, non-IMG, and people will still find something to poke at you. But if you're able to be confident within yourself and know who you are, and know that, okay, look, no matter where I went to school, I'm going to outcompete everybody around me, and have that internally and let that guide you, I think that's what will help you.
All right, we're running out of time. This is going to be your last question, because I know you got to go. Sorry, we're going over time here, guys. Here's the last question. As a non-US IMG, I graduated in 2012. Did my community service in the Dominican Republic in 2013 and 14. And I had to do it in 80 again. Then I came to the States and took my step 1, 2017, and I failed. A few weeks ago, I found Dr. Adesina's program, which is really good for me. I'm preparing for my exam, and I know I'm going to pass it. Being out for so long, what's my chance of matching to residency? And should I even try that prelim program after I pass my steps? Please let me know.
So, good that you're going back to take the test. I know you're in good hands with Dr. Adesina, and I'm praying for you that you pass the test with a good number. Absolutely. Depends upon what you want to do. If it's family, internal medicine, pediatric surgery, anesthesia, you get a prelim program. Definitely. I would definitely get a prelim program, because those spots have to get filled. If you're able to get any US clinical experience by any attending who's willing to take you under their wing before you apply, because right now you're not a resident, right? You're just taking tests. So I would definitely take step 1, maybe take some time, outperform, do well in step 2. You can actually get some clinical experience before you take step 2 to know how the hospital here works and how they do things. You can find attendings who would be willing. It's hard. I'm not really sure with the process, but I know people, and I can be able to direct you if you DM me on Instagram, people that know how to get outside clinical experience. So what they do, you learn how the hospital function, the US works, because some tests that we order, they don't order probably where you came from. And that's going to be key in answering questions for step 2. So I would do well on step 1, right? 'Cause I think, Dr. Dishon, am I correct? People who are taking it now, is it pass fail or is it going to be graded?
January 2022, everything goes pass fail. Like I think, I'm sorry, step one goes pass fail.
Pass fail.
January next year.
Okay. So you're taking the test soon. So you really, bank on 215, 220 plus. Let your step two, let it outperform. I'm not saying to go all out and get, 20 points above, but a good 5-point increase from your step one will be good. And apply to, if I were you, I know it's going to break the bank. If medicine is your thing, apply to as many medicine programs as you can in every single prelim program. Because literally what I did, I applied to every single anesthesia program except for the Ivy Leagues. Okay, so I would suggest the same thing for you. I know it's going to break the bank, and I know money is hard to come by nowadays. But if you can, I'm not an advocate for people taking loans. I'm not Dave Ramsey, but I would tell you maybe take out a loan and apply to every single prelim program and go from there.
Yeah, I know that, before we wrap it up, when people hear about Ivy League schools, listen, if you're an IMG, before you apply to an Ivy League program, Hopkins, Harvard, NYU, Columbia's, the Stanfords, the UCLA's, right? Please, can you go Google and look at their resident class for the last 5 years? Now, if nobody is an IMG like you, please don't waste your time. Now, you can throw your money at them. They'll take it gladly. But what do you say, Dr. Paul, before I let you go?
Well, I did break my rule on that one. I did apply NYU and I actually got an interview there.
That's good. That's good. Listen, if you have the money, I think you should apply. But if to me, you have to apply smartly, right? If you don't have like the top notch 270s, 260s, right? If you have average scores, except if you have the money, hey, apply. But to me, I guess I'll leave it up to you guys.
Oh no, definitely. If you have to look at your budget, you gotta look at your scores, you gotta look where you're coming from. I'm not gonna get into some Harvard anesthesia. I'm not gonna get into, Yale. I had to really tailor. I knew, okay, I looked at my scores and I said, okay, I'm gonna apply to 100 schools that I know I would get an interview. The other 36, I was saying, if I was an American grad, with my scores, I could probably get an interview there. So I knew like NYU, if I was an American grad, I'd probably get an interview there. That was a gamble and it worked. So sometimes a gamble will work. It's 50-50, it's not guaranteed. But Dr. Dishon is saying for sure guaranteed, you gotta look at the program. Look and see if they even take IMGs. NYU, they only had one IMG. And who knows what kind of special clause they had. Or a special deal if mom or dad was one of the program chairs, So that one was rare. I know someone who got an interview from Loma Linda. They never
Loma Linda.
Yeah, and he was one that didn't match. He had all these nice fancy scores. Loma Linda didn't match. So, you got to be very, very strategic. But if you guys have any other questions, so I don't answer questions on Facebook in terms of medicine. I usually answer questions for medicine on Instagram. So I'm going to put my handle in the chat here. You can DM me at Prince_Chiso. You can go ahead and follow me because I drop some stuff. Then you can ask me, match questions on there. And then you can also email me if you don't have an Instagram. What is my email again? So I'm putting my email here as well. And yeah, if you have any questions, please do not feel hesitant to ask me. And if I don't know the answer, I can direct you to people who may have the answer too, because no one man is an island. And I'm not a walking book of knowledge, but I do have some knowledge. So I'll be able to direct you to people who will help you in terms of those who have succeeded in the IMG world. Yeah. Wow. So I'm going to be out of commission for the rest of the day. So if you do drop me some questions, I'll be answering them tomorrow morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Osunwa, for coming on the show. Typically, we would have you guys here for an hour, but I guess you had so much knowledge to give us today.
It was great. I always love trying to, help people who are
thank you so much. Guys, can we give him a round of applause and say thank you to Dr. Osunwa for coming on the show today? Really, really, wow. I learned so much today from myself about the match process, because I never went through the SOAP or the prelim or the transition and so for you to break it down and tell us about interview process, questions, you've got so much gems. This is amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm glad I was able to help you guys.
All right. So guys, make sure you follow him at Prince_Chiso on Instagram. Amazing dude. Seriously. You're going to make a fine anesthesiologist, man. I can't wait for you to be done and, become an attendant and making your dream come true. And, was it worth it?
Oh, yeah. I would say, I look back and sometimes I see some CRNAs and I'm like, you know what? I could have been you and been done already. But then I kind of look back and say, you know what? I'm able to have this breadth of knowledge whereby I'm able to fully understand my patient. And I think I'm able to give back more, not only to patients and healthcare, but to people who want to also go through the process. So looking back, I think I made the right decision. Yeah, because, you can do a lot of things for quick money, but to be fulfilled in what you're doing may take some time, and it's okay. But you have to be happy in what you're doing. And I think I'm happy with what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for hopping on the show today. We'll catch up again later so you can hang up and we'll wrap it up. Thanks so much for coming.
For having me. Appreciate it.
Oh my goodness, guys. Oh my goodness. Wasn't that amazing? I learned so much. Did you guys learn something today? Oh my gosh, I can't imagine if anybody missed this, you've missed a whole lot. This is where the information is being passed on, guys. You're learning from the people who he just matched. Literally, it's August. He's a first year resident and 2 months out, just going through the match and USMLE prep and and this is why I bring people to the program when you guys join Smash USMLE, so you get it from the source, right? Because they have fresh knowledge. They can explain to you what you need to do, because you guys will be doing the same thing probably this year or next year when you guys are applying for the match, or even as you guys are going through the USMLE prep process. So I'm glad he's able to share with us, so much. And I'm glad you guys are able to come out today. For those of you who are not part of Smash USMLE Reviews, you are missing out big time. This is the kind of value you are going to get when you decide to invest in Smash USMLE Reviews, because I am committed to your success. You guys know I am obsessed about each and every one that you're matching into residency. I literally wake up every day trying to figure out who's the next medical doctor who's going to match as an IMG into a residency program next year. How can I get to the USMLE process? I tell you, this is more than a USMLE program. This is more than a USMLE prep course. This is where I want to give you the entire roadmap from the beginning to the end. So when you come through Smash USMLE, I am here to guide you through. And when I don't know the answers, I go out there and find people. Literally, I reached out to Dr. Paul a week ago, and he's like, "Oh, Dr. Adesina, I'm coming on your show." But I have to find these people on Instagram, reach out to them, try to book an appointment, get them out of their busy schedule. They're resident working 80, 90 hours a week, and yet they're able to give us 1 hour of their time. It's so difficult because most people, literally, they match into residency, you never hear back from them again. The number one reason why IMGs come to America every year and they look around them and they don't see anyone that's matched is because the moment they go through that door and they close that door behind that hospital door, they are buried in work. So they are swimming in so much load of work, they don't have time for you. When you call them, they're not going to pick up. When you text them, they're not going to reply your text, right? Because they are sweating and learning so much and they're so busy. So what I do is I said, well, I'm going to leverage my platform. I'm going to leverage my powers and go out there and reach directly out to these residents and say, I need you to come back and tell the story. Because people are out here thinking this is an impossible feat. People are out here looking around and they say nobody's matched. And I'm telling you, 7,000 of them is gone out of the population last year. They've matched, they have gone on. And you know what? Life doesn't stop. When they become an attending, they have kids, they have family. They don't have time for you. They don't. So me as an attending, coming back to the basics, coming back to step 1, step 2, CK, the ERAS map, personal statement. I'm going through this process to guide you guys. It's my commitment to make sure that Smash USMLE is the program that guides you through the entire roadmap from A to Z. That's my commitment. That's my team's commitment. That's why I brought in tutors, coaches, to guide you, because I know how difficult it is. I know how exhausting. I know how depressing. I know how loneliness. I know the anxiety. I know the depression. I know the stress that you guys are going through, but I know that if I can bring a team together, if I can bring someone to come and teach you and give you hope, that's all you guys need, right? Think someone, you know, when I was in college, I used to look at medical students like these demigods. I'm like, you're a medical student, right? And I used to envision myself wearing a white coat, sitting down in that library, studying for the exams and being their shoes. But I have to see them. I used to drive to medical schools in my community, right? Walking in the hallways, just observing and absorbing and looking at these people, because that is my goal. I want to be in their shoes. And when I met residents, it's the same thing. I'm like, I'll talk to them, because if you want to be great, you need to hang out with great people. If you want to be successful, you need to surround yourself with successful people, because they're going to give you the advice that will shortcut the process for you. Okay. So if you guys are still in the course or you guys are not in the program, I'm going to drop the link right now for people who are still like wondering, should I just Smash USMLE? I have a 4-week live hybrid masterclass that goes on every month. In 30 days, I'm going to give you a full review. Some of you already attended my course. I simplify medicine for you at the level of a 5th grader. Okay. If you're watching on YouTube right now, listen, I'm going to drop the link for you. All right. Literally join the program, invest in the course, right? The self-paced course has everything I've covered and more. My test day secrets, my smart MD training course, my flashcards, everything. We've spent the last decade building this platform to help you guys. So I'm just going to drop the link for you guys. Now, if anyone has any particular questions before we wrap it up, please feel free to, if something you missed during the webinar or something Dr. Paul said that you didn't catch, maybe came a little bit late, I'm just going to drop the link for people who still want to join the program today. I'm going to put it on YouTube for you guys also, all right? Ask me any questions. You guys that are already in the Smart MD WhatsApp group, which is our VIP exclusive, some people are saying, what, how can I get in? When you sign up for the program, then we have to verify your, investment. And then once we know you actually paid for the course, we're going to give you exclusive access to be part of the group. When you're in the group, you're going to get access like this. You're going to be able to know what's going on live. And I'm always dropping bombs. I'm always motivating you guys. I'm always there because this is my passion. This is what I wake up every single day. This is my commitment to life and seeing, because I know how difficult it is being an immigrant. I know what people have told me. I know what, when you're talking to other people in your environment and they're saying like, why are you wasting your time? People have told me that. They're saying it's not even worth it. It's too long. You're too old, right? People are going to tell you everything they cannot do. That's what human beings are. When people can't do something, they take their own failures and then they transpose it into your life to try to dictate how far you go. And that's why I don't hang out with those people. My circle is very small, guys. I only surround myself with the top 1% of the world. I have a lot of friends, but my inner circle is small. And you got to protect your inner circle. When you have a dream, you got to protect it. When you have a goal that's bigger than everybody else, you need to protect what goes through your ears and what you see. Be careful what you read. Be careful what you listen to, because it will dictate the course of your life. But if you want to be part of the 1% in America, practice medicine at the level that nobody has access to, become an attending, you're going to pay the price for it. There's no shortcut. You are going to burn the hours. Nobody's going to do that work for you. I'm going to give you the guidance. I'm going to give you the resources, but you are going to commit. And once you commit, that is the most important piece. When I talk to IMGs all the time, they're like, well, I've tried before. I'm like, you're going to try again. You're going to try again. Because listen, you're going to look back at the things you never did in your life. And that's what you're going to look back and say, oh my God, I wish I did this. And if you want to live the rest of your life with regrets, stop, don't go through the process. But if you want to live your life and say, listen, You tell your children and your children's children and your family, say, listen, I made my mind I was going to do something and I got it done, despite all the odds, because people do it every single day. I have seen one of the most amazing miracles in my life. When human beings commit that they want to do something, they do it. And that's why I'm here for you guys. I am committed. So if you guys want to be part of the course, you want to join the program, you want to see how Smash USM Review works, listen, we got over 250 hours of lecture videos that I've spent all the years to build, right? Flashcards, video lectures, 4-week live hybrid masterclass course, right? I have an IMG roadmap course, that, even like with test this taking strategies. I teach you like the test this secrets, how to overcome anxiety. There's so much you're going to get for the value. And plus, you have me, all right? You cannot call up an attendant in America right now and talk to them anyhow, or say, I just have their cell phone number. You better think twice before you text them. But I give you access to me and my team. That's our commitment to Smash USM Reviews. So thank you guys. It's been an hour and a half today. It's been one of the most amazing. This recording is going to be available. I'm going to put the link for the students in the Smart MD WhatsApp group that couldn't attend today, so you guys can have access. And please feel free, follow me on Instagram if you guys haven't seen at Smash USMLE. Okay, make sure you're following me. I'm always there. Dropping bombs and give you guys more nuggets and giving the latest updates. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. For those of you who want to still sign up, that's the link, smashuSMLA.com/enroll. Till I see you next time, I've got a couple of treats for you guys for the next guest. I'm not going to tell you, but you're going to hear about it. God bless you. Listen, I'm proud of each and every one of you. I believe in you guys. I believe in God, and I know He's going to guide you through the process. No matter what you're going through, He will get you through. No matter how hard the journey seems, I promise you, the light at the end of the tunnel is so sweet. The impact that you're going to be able to make, the knowledge in your brain, and the skill set you're going to develop when you finish this process, you're going to go from being a nobody to somebody. People are going to respect you. You are going to make a difference in the world, and you're going to get to live the rest of your life doing what you truly love, which is practicing medicine. And that, I call it a privilege, not a right, but you have to earn it. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Till I see you guys again. Have an amazing evening. Bye-bye.